Hello, welcome to Tompin's educational video on basic Midi editing. We start by opening a Logic project with an audio and two software instrument tracks. These are where we will place our Midi file. A preview of the drum roll. Now we're going to record a bass line using a Midi controller. We select the software instrument track, hit record, notice that as I play the notes are plotted both on the audio timeline and in the piano roll. Purposely, I have played some of the notes a little out of time and out of tune. These are the notes that we will edit. Next, I will add a riff to go on top. Okay, we'll hold that there. And finally, to add a little bit of excitement, we will add another software instrument track. And with this track, we will improvise and play a few notes in. They may or may not go with the music so far. Let's see. Okay, so now we have our three Midi parts down. We're going to edit those Midi parts by use of the piano roll. The piano roll is a grid on which notes are plotted in correspondence to the notes of a piano. It gets its name from the old paper piano rolls that made automatic pianos play their music. The piano roll shows note and time, beat, position of that note. When the playhead passes that note, the note will be played as such. You will notice that there were more than one note played incorrectly. These are the notes that we're going to edit using the piano roll. Let's find the first. Okay, that seems to be the culprit. Editing using the piano roll is very simple. It's a simple drag and drop motion by clicking the mouse and dragging up or down the grid to the place that you desire. After playback, it seems that the note is in the required spot. Now we need to look at the time position of each note in the section. It is possible using the piano roll to zoom in on the section to closely monitor where your notes stand in comparison to the grid. It is possible to quantize or move all notes at the same time by selecting them all. This we will go into in a little while. We will now move the first note to the first measure on the grid. We will continue to do that manually with each note, moving them independently to the start of each bar. To get a better representation of that, we will mute the other two software instruments. As you can hear, each note is now snapped to the grid. By selecting all notes, we can use the quantize function to snap those selected notes to the grid. Be careful to watch the measurement of the quantize, as the quantize measurement will indirectly affect how the notes are snapped to the grid. A 1-1 setting will snap each note to the first beat of every bar. In most cases, this will not be suitable, and therefore you should go for a higher resolution snapping. I've tried 1/8 here. As you can hear, that is not a required measurement for this song. We'll try and go one higher, increase the resolution to 1/16. Perfect. Now that we have obtained the required resolution, we will import the same settings into the high track. Make sure that you select the MIDI track that you would like to adjust in the piano roll. We will select all of the notes and hit quantize. As you see, all the notes have now been quantized into a timing of 1/16. Because we're happy with that part, we will copy it and play the same thing again. This is simply done by either copy and pasting or dragging and dropping, holding the Alt. Okay, so we have a 2-part MIDI piece by only having to play one part. But let's add some variation to that part. At the end here, I've chosen those 2 notes. We will remove them simply by selecting and pressing delete. Okay, let's add something else. The piano roll comes with an array of tools. The most likely that you will use will be the pointer, the pencil tool, the arranger, and the scissors. The pointer helps you select notes. The pencil tool lets you draw notes. The eraser tool lets you delete notes. And the scissors tool lets you split notes. Should the notes be split and you want to reconnect them, then we would use the glue tool. The other tools will be looked at more in depth in an intermediate MIDI tutorial. We'll use the pencil tool to draw in new notes on the piano roll. This is easily done by simply selecting the grid and clicking the mouse button. You can elongate the note or make it shorter by holding the left or right edge and pulling to the left or the right side. For now, we want the note small. So let's play that and see what we have. Okay, that's not exactly the desired effect that we are looking for. So let's try using the scissors tool to split that MIDI note that we've just plotted on the grid. For some reason, Logic wants to take it back to the beginning of the MIDI section. This is only happening because both MIDI parts are selected. We have cut the note now, and we will use the glue tool. Nope. We will use the eraser tool to delete one of the notes. This can be done simply by selecting the select tool, selecting the part that you want to delete, and pressing the delete key. So, let's see what we have now. Okay, the timing of that seems off a little bit, so we're going to use the drag and drop function and drag it back into time. It seems that we've recreated what... Now, I will unsolo all the tracks and solo just the final improvisation track. Although it sounds fine on its own, it doesn't really suit the rest of the track. So what we're going to do now is we're going to use the MIDI editor to take certain parts. Just as we do in the piano roll, we use the scissors tool to split the MIDI track. This is done in the arrangement window. We'll play this to see what we have. Okay, the part we've selected sounds okay, and we'll play it with music just to make sure. Okay, that sounds fine. So now we'll use the pointer tool and the select and delete method to get rid of the first part of the MIDI track. Okay, we will solo the MIDI track and try and find another part that we can keep within the song. Okay, that sounds good there from the 6th bar. So again, using the scissors tool, we will select the scissors and select the part of the MIDI track that we want to cut. We will then select the end position. We will then select the eraser tool and delete both parts. Now, we will play the track to see what exactly we have. Okay, the first part didn't seem to be right, but this part was fine. So we'll duplicate that using the copy paste or the drag and drop. And we'll move the first part to see if we can make it sound a little bit better. Okay, the positioning seems better, but for some reason the second notes are not correct. This is where we go into the piano roll again to re-edit the notes. You can use the piano, as shown, to try and find the note that it is you are looking for. In the same respect, holding the notes will play the note that they correspond to. Let's try this. Using the drag and drop method, we will try to manually find where the notes should sit. That sounds about right, so we'll try playing that. Okay, that sounds a lot better. What's great about MIDI is that once you've created a MIDI file, you're able to duplicate that and put it onto any other virtual instrument. So what we've done here is I've created another virtual instrument. I've taken the same MIDI file that plays the bass line, copied that onto the other virtual instrument track. To give it a little bit of variation, what I would do is open that track up into the piano roll, making sure that it is actually that track that wants to be adjusted. I would grab all of the notes and take them up an octave, 2 octaves, to play 2 octaves above. I'm soloing the new track and the bass line. You can hear that now we've created an upper bass line or a pad line that is able to be used through any other virtual instrument. This is the simplicity of MIDI and how it can help a performer to easily achieve required sounds. To clear the track up, we will re-go over the created MIDI parts and we will use the quantize function. We will do this to the resolution of 1/16. And there you have it. So, in this video, you have learned how to create a MIDI part, edit the MIDI part by way of inserting, deleting, cutting, splicing, moving, quantizing, and other kinds of adjustments. The next phase will go into different parts of MIDI editing.